In the strategic Horn of Africa, a region vital for global trade and security, Ethiopia's long-held quest for reliable Red Sea access is once again reigniting simmering tensions and raising concerns about regional stability. This pursuit, deeply rooted in historical and economic factors, is now at the forefront of Ethiopian foreign policy. With a rapidly growing population of over 120 million people, Ethiopia represents a significant economic force in East Africa. However, Ethiopia remains the world's most populous landlocked nation, a geographical constraint that significantly impacts its trade, development, and overall strategic autonomy. This landlocked status is viewed by its leaders as not only a challenge but also an intolerable impediment to its national aspirations. Recognizing this critical need, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has boldly declared securing dependable seaport access as a paramount national priority for Ethiopia. He has publicly stated that access to the sea is absolutely essential, not just for Ethiopia's economic survival, but also for its national pride and its ability to project itself on the global stage. However, this ambition has understandably alarmed its neighbors, who view Ethiopia's intentions with a mixture of suspicion and concern. This is especially true for Eritrea, a nation that fought long and hard for its independence and whose hard-won coastline is considered absolutely non-negotiable. Adding fuel to the fire, Ethiopia's increasingly assertive rhetoric, which has included thinly veiled hints at the potential use of force, has triggered a dangerous and potentially destabilizing standoff between the two nations. The already fragile peace agreement between Ethiopia and Eritrea, who were once united as allies against the Tigray People's Liberation Front, is now rapidly unraveling, threatening to plunge the region back into open conflict. The Tigray region, strategically wedged geographically between Ethiopia and Eritrea, still bears deep scars from the recent devastating war. Sadly, it is highly likely to become the next major battleground in this escalating conflict. The people of Tigray, still struggling to recover from widespread devastation and displacement, are now tragically trapped between these increasingly hostile powers, facing an uncertain and perilous future. The international community is watching this volatile situation with growing anxiety, acutely aware that any renewed conflict in this already fragile region could easily destabilize the entire Horn of Africa, with potentially catastrophic consequences. The stakes are incredibly high, and the region now stands precariously on the very brink of another major crisis. Tigray's recent history is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of conflict. Marked by immense suffering, loss, and shattered hopes, the scars of war run deep, impacting every facet of life in the region. The brutal 2020 to 2022 civil war, a period of intense fighting and unimaginable hardship, left hundreds of thousands dead, a staggering loss of life that continues to haunt the collective memory. Beyond the immediate casualties, millions were displaced from their homes, forced to seek refuge in overcrowded camps or trek across the war-torn landscape in search of safety and sustenance. The conflict deliberately targeted essential civilian infrastructure, with hospitals, schools, and vital services destroyed or rendered unusable, further exacerbating the suffering of the population. The region's infrastructure lies in ruins, a testament to the scale of destruction. A peace deal brokered in Pretoria offered a glimmer of hope, promising disarmament of warring factions. The agreement also stipulated the withdrawal of foreign troops, a key demand aimed at restoring Tigray's sovereignty and stability. However, despite the initial optimism, key provisions of the peace agreement remain unfulfilled, casting a shadow of doubt over the prospects for lasting peace. Eritrean forces, who played a significant role in the conflict, still occupy parts of Tigray, defying the terms of the Pretoria Agreement. This continued presence fuels fear, uncertainty, and instability among the Tigrayan population, hindering the region's recovery. For many Tigrayans, the peace feels like a betrayal, a hollow promise that has failed to deliver the security and autonomy they desperately crave. Security remains elusive, and their land remains under the control of foreign forces, perpetuating a sense of occupation and resentment. Disillusionment runs deep as the region remains in a precarious limbo, caught between the ravages of war and the elusive promise of peace. Tigray finds itself neither fully at war nor truly at peace, trapped in a state of tense uncertainty. Young fighters who once held onto the hope of a better future now face a bleak reality of idleness, unemployment, and broken promises, their dreams deferred indefinitely. The failure to fully implement the peace agreement has eroded trust between the parties involved, breeding suspicion and resentment. This lack of progress has created fertile ground for renewed conflict, raising the specter of further violence and instability. Tigray's wounds remain open, a constant reminder of the suffering endured and the challenges that lie ahead. The threat of another war looms large, casting a dark shadow over the region's future. The fragile peace, painstakingly negotiated, is on the verge of collapse, threatening to plunge Tigray back into the abyss of conflict. In the Horn of Africa, a region marked by both stunning beauty and deep-seated conflict, alliances shift as quickly as the desert winds, constantly redrawing the political map. Loyalties are tested, and old partnerships can dissolve in an instant. Ethiopia's Abiy Ahmed and Eritrea's Isaias Afwerki, once hailed as peacemakers, were once partners, united against the TPLF, sharing a common enemy and a vision for regional stability. Their alliance, built on mutual interests and strategic calculations, fractured after the Tigray war ended, revealing deep-seated disagreements and unresolved issues. The bonds that once seemed unbreakable are now strained and fragile. Eritrean troops' continued presence in Tigray, despite calls for their withdrawal, has become a major source of tension, fueling resentment and undermining trust between the former allies. This lingering presence casts a long shadow over the region. The TPLF, once Ethiopia's dominant force, now relegated to a regional player, is now weakened and wary of being used as a pawn in a larger geopolitical game, carefully calculating its next move. As Abiy and Isaias drift apart, their diverging interests creating a vacuum of uncertainty, Tigray finds itself caught in a dangerous power struggle, vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation. The people of Tigray face an uncertain future. Trust is scarce, a precious commodity, in a region rife with historical grievances, and every side fears betrayal, haunted by the spectre of past conflicts and broken agreements. The region's history of broken promises and shifting allegiances makes diplomacy difficult, requiring careful navigation and a willingness to overcome deeply ingrained mistrust. The next move, the next alliance, the next betrayal could determine the fate of millions, shaping the future of the Horn of Africa for generations to come. In 2024, Ethiopia tried a bold move, securing a Red Sea port through a deal with Somaliland. The plan, a 50-year lease on Somaliland's coast in exchange for recognition of its independence. The backlash was swift. Somalia, Egypt, and others condemned the deal, and international support evaporated. Ethiopia's diplomatic gamble failed, leaving it isolated and its Red Sea ambitions blocked. The move pushed Somalia closer to Eritrea and Egypt, deepening regional opposition to Ethiopia. With the Somaliland option gone, Ethiopia's focus returned to Eritrea's coastline, raising the stakes. The failed deal left Ethiopia cornered and desperate for alternatives. Tensions are now higher than ever, with Tigray caught in the crossfire. Tigray's challenges aren't just external. Internal divisions threaten its stability. The TPLF, once united, is now fragmented, with factions split over how to move forward. Some push for peace, others for confrontation, leaving the interim government weak. New political actors and armed groups have emerged, fueling lawlessness and instability. Smuggling and corruption thrive, draining the region's resources and legitimacy. Without unity, Tigray is vulnerable to outside manipulation and internal chaos. The risk? Tigray could become a failed state within a state, unable to defend its interests. Restoring order and unity is essential for any hope of peace. Beneath the political turmoil, Tigray faces a humanitarian disaster. War and drought have destroyed agriculture, and famine looms. Aid has dwindled, leaving millions displaced and hungry. Camps overflow with people lacking food, water, and medical care. Former fighters promised reintegration now face poverty and hopelessness. Many see no choice but to return to arms, driven by desperation. The humanitarian crisis is fueling instability and the risk of renewed violence. Without urgent aid, the region could spiral into chaos. The world cannot ignore the warning signs. War is not inevitable. There's still a chance for peace in the Horn of Africa. The international community, especially the US, must act decisively. Full implementation of the Pretoria Agreement is urgent, including Eritrean withdrawal from Tigray. Sanctions and pressure may be needed to ensure compliance. Disarmament and reintegration of fighters must be supported with real opportunities. Ethiopia's need for sea access should be addressed through regional cooperation, not threats. Humanitarian aid must surge to prevent famine and reduce desperation. The choices made now will shape the region's future. Only bold, sustained diplomacy can prevent catastrophe.